Well, the youth employment subsidy is viewed as one pillar of a multi-pronged approach to addressing and alleviating youth unemployment. National Treasury approached the Harvard International Growth Advisory Panel to propose alternatives that government could pursue regarding youth wage subsidy. In the second quarter of 2010, the unemployment rate of the 15 to 34-year-olds was 51.2% and 60.3% if the broad unemployment definition is applied. Last week, South Africa's official opposition, the Democratic Alliance, marched to the offices of the country's largest union federation, the Congress of South African Unions, to hand over a memorandum. The memorandum sought to demand government wage subsidies for young people, which the party says would create more than 400,000 jobs. The march was eventually abandoned because of clashes that broke out between the DA and COSATU. And joining us now to discuss the youth wage subsidy as unemployment and employment strategy is Economic Policy Co-ordinator and Economist, Professor Iraj Abedian, who is CEO of Pan-African Capital Holdings. Tim Harris, DA's Shadow Minister of Finance from our studios in Cape Town, will also join us. And we've also got Professor Chris Malikane, who is COSATU's Economic Policy Co-ordinator. Very warm welcome to you, gentlemen. Iraj, I'm going to actually start with you because we do know what the DA has been saying. We do know what COSATU has been saying. What's your take on this debate?
I think in short, Hannah, my take is that both parties are really off track. It's a sideshow. It's a political issue. Both parties have made a mountain out of a molehill in the sense that a youth subsidy is not a remedy to our solution of youth unemployment. And it is true that if you introduce it, the market will respond and a couple of 100,000 youths will get access to the first job opportunity, and there will be some substitution effects. In other words, I had the choice of hiring somebody who was there for 10 years, 5 years, 6 years, and obviously I'm incentivized to get somebody who is new, and I'll use that. The market will definitely use that. We've seen it in UK, in the United States in the past. Many countries have tried it. It's a sideshow because both parties do not focus on what's causing youth unemployment.
And what do you think that is?
A rotten education system, an inappropriate tertiary and skills augmentation system, a system of education that is disconnected from the sources of skills and expertise, which is the business, manufacturing, and so on and so forth.
Chris, I'm going to come to you because COSATU essentially does agree with that is one of the issues of youth unemployment, is that the education system is also problematic and that the youth wage subsidy might not be the answer to the solution.
Yes, and I fully agree with what Iraj is saying, because if you look at the structure of the education system and the opportunities that young people from the schooling system have, they are extremely limited. We recall that after 1996, there was a shutdown of many colleges, technical colleges, nursing colleges, teacher colleges, and colleges that could be used to train people as artisans. They shut down, and state-owned enterprises also retreated from basically playing their role in skills development and training. So that is the fundamental issue that we need to address.
Tim, I'm going to come to you over in Cape Town. Just a little bit about what you say from the arguments that you've heard from here in Joburg.
No, well, I agree entirely with Iraj. The youth wage subsidy is not a silver bullet. There are a variety of solutions required to fix the problem in our labour market, and many of them are supply-side issues around education and training. But what the DA is saying is, for the first time, there's a demand-side intervention that will create jobs for hundreds of thousands of young people who are in the demographic that is most vulnerable to unemployment. Of the unemployed people in South Africa today, 71% of them are below the age of 34. There are around 3.2 million people in that age bracket who are unemployed. So clearly we have a major unemployment problem in South Africa, but it's fair to say we have a youth unemployment crisis. Now, Treasury proposes this plan to strike at the heart of that problem by creating around 133,000 sustainable youth jobs.
Tim,
and they've designed the policy in a way that minimizes the substitution.
Yeah.
So we think this is a great idea, and we're lending our weight fully behind National Treasury.
Tim, what I want to ask you, though, is some of the argument that has come out, and Iraj has also alluded to this, is this is also part of politicking, that the parties are coming on board here to probably looking at strengthening their own political parties and strengthening their position. What would the DA say to that?
Well, I think it is a deeply political issue. You have the president announcing a policy 2 years ago. In last year's budget, the finance minister put money behind the policy, 5 billion rand over 3 years, and announced an implementation date of 1 April this year. 2 years after it was floated by the president, it hasn't appeared yet. And when we ask the president why this is, he tells us because it's still being discussed at NEDLAC. Now, the government doesn't need to consult NEDLAC, but clearly they're waiting until there's consensus at NEDLAC. But we hear that COSATU is refusing to even discuss the policy at NEDLAC. That's why the focus shifts directly onto them. Here you have a policy that's proposed by the government, supported by the opposition, supported by a broad range of economists, supported by the second biggest trade union federation, FEDUSA. COSATU is very lonely on this issue, and they're the only thing blocking its implementation.
Okay, on COSATU being lonely, I went to the ANC Youth League's website to hear what they were saying, because there are some reports that have come out and say that the ANC Youth League actually supports the subsidy. I went to their website and the ANC Youth League is not behind this. So you're not the only voice that's opposing.
Exactly. Even the South African Students' Congress is against this policy. But again, as Iraj puts it very well, what are the fundamental causes? Really, I mean, if you look at the statistics, they show that per annum, 400,000 young people get spit out by the schooling system, unprepared for the labor market. And if we were to expand the FET sector, for example, there are plans to expand it so that it absorbs 1 million people per annum. You will deal with this thing decisively.
Also, Chris, what has been said about COSATU's position has been that COSATU is probably, in this particular case, is saying, well, the risk is that what could happen, and you alluded to this, Iraj, is what could happen is that an employer is going to say, well, it's cheaper for me to have the young person that's coming on this subsidized pay than to have the more experienced one, and that you're probably sacrificing the youth in that sense and saying that you want to protect the more experienced person. What would you say to that criticism?
In fact, that's a criticism that we level. And secondly, the fact that the subsidy is going to lead to recycling of young people without guaranteeing them permanent jobs. And actually, when you look at the Treasury document, it does not come up with concrete measures to actually deal with that problem. They only say there is that problem. However, we should develop ways to deal with it. It's almost 10 years, as they say. Where are the solutions to deal with the displacement? Even internationally, there are no concrete measures to deal with it.
But Iraj, would a business really do this? Would a business say, well, I've got a young person who's coming in who I'm going to have to pay less, and really sacrifice a person who's got 10 years experience? You were talking about 10 years experience, and sacrifice the experienced person over an inexperienced person, just overpay. Would that really happen?
It depends which business you're in. So business is not homogeneous. There are businesses that they need short-term casual workers. There are businesses that would never, no matter how much you subsidize them, they will not sacrifice or risk for their own business purposes somebody who's got experience. So I think we need to unpack this whole complex situation, recognize that business has got many, many shades. And we cannot talk about their business as if they're all homogeneous. They go reading off the same template and act accordingly. What we need to recognize is that skills are not generated or acquired over a short period of time. So in businesses that is, in language of economics, they are firm specific and technology specific, they would completely disregard this subsidy. In businesses and operations that are very general, and you can take 1,000 people and within 2 days you're as good as somebody who's been there 6 years, you'll definitely go for the subsidy. We've seen it in the UK and some province or states in the United States. And this is not a new thing.
But in some places it has been successful.
It has been. It will be successful on those cases. Therefore, I come back to the point. If COSATU, for example, let's talk about COSATU a little bit. COSATU is sidetracking the issue because it should say, in my view, it should say teachers who are incompetent, which is one of the causes of this. We must audit their skills. If they are not passing the test, retire them, and I'm using decidedly not to sack them. Retire them, start dealing with the systemic issues. When we've dealt with that, and we've put the whole educational side right, and COSATU and some of the member unions are resisting it. We've seen it in the Eastern Cape, for example. I'm going to stop you right there. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to ask you if you are resisting it, and if you are, why.